one of the things that concerns me is the difficulty of having a discussion about what really works when it comes to the economy without it being completely confused by political considerations and political discussions and elections considerations. So tonight, I'm going to offer some thoughts about some future steps that we need to take with regard to the economy, that our economic teams continue to champion and that we continue to promote, because we think the most important issue facing the country now is jobs. I believe that if you put people back to work, it will help bring the deficit down. Because one of the reasons why we have a high deficit is because so many Americans are not working, and when they're not working, they're not paying taxes. When they're not paying taxes, it exacerbates the deficit. So this idea that job stimulation and reducing the deficit are somehow goals in opposition to each other is one of the things that we don't agree with. And we have to work hard to try to convince people that the two things go hand in hand when we're talking about the future of the economy. So I am looking forward. I'll say this about the president. I mean, I think the president, if you go back to 18 months ago when the stimulus, the American Recovery Act was first proposed, the National Urban League and a coalition of organizations wanted a stimulus that was twice the size of what got passed. The reason why we had a stimulus of the size that we didn't have to do with President Obama. It had to do with members of Congress who simply had a number in their head that they were not willing to vote beyond. And so this is a dynamic process when it comes to jobs. It requires the president and the Congress. And one of the things that continues to concern me, and I'll say this throughout, I've seen the filibuster used more often on more things, more frequently than at any time in recent memory. We went and did some research and found out that the filibuster has been used more in the last 2.5 to 3 years than it was used in the previous 100 years. So what you have is something like summer jobs, where if you poll summer jobs, 70% of the public approves it. A majority of the House is for it. A majority of the Senate is for it. But because of the filibuster, you can't enact it into law. And we have to highlight why many of these types of things are having great difficulty in passing. So a new round of, quote, stimulus for the economy needs to be more targeted. It needs to be targeted to areas of high unemployment. Many of those areas are areas of high African American and Latino population. But guess what? Some of those areas are in rural America. Some of those areas are in suburban America. So if we targeted our new energy of our jobs to neighborhoods, areas that have high unemployment, I think we can do a big difference. We've got to convince the policymakers. That's where the National Urban League stands.